Water can be one of the most intimidating textures to draw because it's constantly moving, reflecting, shifting, and changing color. But the trick is not to think, I have to draw water. The trick is to look for lines, shapes, shadows, highlights, and value changes, then build those pieces slowly with layers. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Studio CC. This is the second video in my short colored pencil texture series. In the first video, we drew grass. Today we're drawing water, and next we'll move into tree bark, which will be the most detailed texture study in the set. For this tutorial, I'll be using Faber-Castell Polychromos colored pencils because they're a little firmer and don't need to be sharpened as often as softer pencils like the Prismacolor Premier. But you can still follow along with whatever colored pencils you have. If you're brand new to colored pencils and want a general overview first, I have a full colored pencils for beginners video that covers types, tools, and basic techniques. I'll link that on screen and down in the description. Now, full disclosure, I actually filmed an entirely different water texture that you may have seen previewed in the grass tutorial I posted before this one. But when I started editing the footage, I realized number one, I didn't really like how it looked, and two, it wasn't beginner friendly. It was more complicated than I anticipated, and I genuinely want to keep these tutorials accessible to new artists or those brushing up their skills. So let's start by looking at the new reference image and breaking this water texture down into manageable concepts. When you're drawing something abstract and complex like this, it's very important to forget what you think you know and instead think of it in terms of lines, shapes, and value. The first thing I noticed on the image was the dark shadow areas, so I tried to visualize them as organic shapes and lines. I started the drawing by creating a light outline of those areas using a dark indigo pencil. The other thing about using a reference image is that we're not trying to copy it exactly. We're just using it to help make more informed choices about our drawing. So don't get caught up in the details, just try to capture the overall feeling of your reference image. Next, I filled these shapes in with a very light application of the same color. I then went over these same areas with a little more pressure to create the foundation of their gradients and value shifts. Remember that with colored pencils, it's extremely important to work in light layers and gradually build value. Up until this point, I've only used one pencil, and it's already beginning to look like water. So if this process intimidates you, try doing a water study using only one pencil so you can focus less on color choices and more on the value itself. Next, I grabbed the Helioblue and started applying it with medium pressure across the areas of the deepest blue across the bottom. This area transitioned into a blue-green, so I used the turquoise pencil at the top. For the other big shadow areas, I checked the reference to see if it was more blue or turquoise and layered color on top based on what I saw. There was usually a little bit of pure color on at least one edge of the shadows, so I extended the color out around them. As I worked my way up, I kept looking back at what I had already done to increase the saturation. But I still felt like it wasn't getting as dark as the reference, so I did resort to using the black pencil to push the contrast and range of value further. After that, I continued to alternate between the Helioblue, Turquoise, and dark indigo pencils, layering each together according to what I saw on the reference. I also applied light layers of the blue and turquoise over parts of the white highlights so that there was a transition between the highlights and the shadows. At the end, I debated whether or not I should use the white pencil to blend everything, and I'm so glad I did because I really felt like it made the water much more realistic. I sped this section up a little bit more, but essentially I burnished over all the light areas before switching to the dark areas so the dark pigment wouldn't spread. This step not only brightened up some of the pigments, it filled in the grain of the paper so it looks less like a drawing. I added my final color swatch at the bottom both for your reference and for future me. I wish you guys could see this one in person because the camera is not doing it justice. The main thing to remember is that water becomes much less intimidating when you stop thinking about it as water and start looking for lines, shapes, shadows, highlights, and value changes. Even though this texture looks complex, it was built slowly with light layers, repeated color adjustments, and careful observation from the reference. Your challenge this week is to try a small water texture study of your own. And if the full color version feels overwhelming, try starting with just one pencil so you can focus on the values first. If this tutorial helped, please like the video and subscribe for more colored pencil texture lessons. And be sure to check back soon because the next video in this series will be tree bark, where we'll focus on rough textures, cracks, layered color, and deeper contrast. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode of Studio CC.